Hey, and welcome back to Unqualified Critics, news and reviews on home arcade gaming. And today I'm reviewing the Miss Pac-Man cocktail cabinet. This is something I've been looking forward to for a while because I have room. I have a perfect space in my game room for a second cocktail cab, and this has a lot of titles that allow me to consolidate some of my older Wave 1 cabinets that I know a lot of you have. The original Pac-Man cabinet, although original Pac-Man's not on this cabinet, but for me, Miss Pac-Man's a good stand-in, and the Galaga and Galaxian cabinet that I got from Wave 1. So this is a chance to consolidate my game room a little bit, get that second cocktail cabinet, and because it looks so good in pictures, and it turns out it looks just as good in person, offer that great centerpiece for a game room that you want from a cocktail cabinet. Now, Arcade1up calls these head-to-heads, but I think they're just going for a family-friendly term. I prefer the original industry term, which is cocktail cab. You can set things down on it, but basically you sit down to play these, and it is a little better experience for me. It's a different experience than standing up at an arcade. It's a nice change of pace. If you've got an arcade at your home with a lot of games, I really think at least one cocktail cabinet should be part of that if you have room for it. Now, this stand-up Miss Pac-Man looks gorgeous, and to be honest, if those renders had been correct and they had the tilted and fully recessed control panel and monitor like we saw that would have looked just like the original hardware, I probably would have had to have gone with that instead. But because that wasn't the case, I felt comfortable getting this cocktail cab. The games list is great. Miss Pac-Man along with Super Pac-Man, Dig Dug finally, and Galaga, among a few other titles, made this a pretty easy purchase for me. Now, if you're familiar with the other head-to-head cabinets Arcade1up has put out, then you know what the big design flaw was. They sat too low to the ground. It was ridiculous. Even if you bought the Arcade1up official stool accessory, you couldn't sit comfortably on that stool and play the cabinet. They sat at 25 inches. The real cocktail cabinets were 32. This one measures up at 29 inches, which I've tested at length for a few hours at a time with my stools that I bought from Arcade1up, and it works perfectly. It's very comfortable to play, and it works. Now, if you are interested in raising it up a couple extra inches, getting it to that original 32-inch height, I will put a link in below to some steel riser feet that I recommend that are similar to what I used on my other Arcade1up cocktail cabinet. I will say also on the stools front, we are not getting Miss Pac-Man stools. They're unavailable to Arcade1up because of licensing restrictions. Maybe that'll change someday in the future, but for that reason I picked up the QVC Pac-Man stools that actually look like a pretty good fit for this cabinet's design. I'll show that to you on the screen, and if you're interested in getting stools to go with this, I do recommend those. Now, a cocktail cabinet is a centerpiece to your game room, as I mentioned, so appearance is crucial, and I'm really going to value that highly in this review. So here's what I like and don't like about how the cabinet looks. The monitor, I think, is a little on the small side. This is a $500 purchase, and at that price point, and for the bezel being as large and wide as this cabinet is, we really should have got a larger screen. Now, why am I bringing this up in the appearance and not when I'm talking about gameplay? Well, it doesn't really affect gameplay. When you're playing any game on this cabinet, the 17-inch monitor is just fine. I have no complaints. But when you're walking around your room and you look over at the cabinet that's on in the background, it starts to look a little Fisher Price. As nice as the design is for this cabinet, it kind of falls apart when you look at it from the side with the monitor on because it's just a little too small for the overall size of the cabinet. Again, at this price point, they should really give us a 19-inch or larger monitor to make this work, and I hope they will for future iterations. Now, when it comes to otherwise the look of the cabinet, the side panels are actually an improvement over the original Miss Pac-Man cabinet. The original were just plain wood grain on the side panels. Here we get a big, beautiful, bold Miss Pac-Man logo in pink and yellow, and it looks great. The original looked a little plain, let's be honest, and this is an improvement over that. Now, the original did have wood grain on all four sides of the cabinet, whereas here, we only get it on the left and right side panel. The front and rear are blank. They're just plain black. I would have much preferred if the wood grain went all the way around. I assume they did that for financial reasons, I don't really know, but it doesn't look as good as it could have. Now, like other cocktail cabinets from Arcade1up, the topper to the cabinet has a nice thick T-molding surrounding it. It looks great in bright yellow. And then there's the accent tape around the rest of the cabinets outlined, also in bright yellow. Very nice looking, not something that was in the original, but it really does make the design pop. Now, unfortunately, unlike the original Cocktail Miss Pac-Man, the joystick is not centered to the control panel. It is offset to the left to make room for 3 buttons on the right. Now, only one game here, Pac-Land, uses 3 buttons, with the rest only needing 0 or 1, or in Dig Dug 2's case, 2 buttons. I would have preferred a center stick with 2 buttons on either side, on both sides, so you could still get that ambidextrous play and get that original look and feel. Does it affect gameplay for me? No, it does not, but again, it would have looked a little nicer with those centered controls. Making that design accommodation for a game is uninteresting, at least to me personally. It's Pac-Land, doesn't make a lot of sense. As for the quality of the controls, well, they're not great. The buttons are perfectly good enough for the kind of cabinet this is, but the joysticks, in my opinion, are not. I opted to upgrade to Sanwa joysticks. They're about $23 a stick. You only need 2, so we're not talking a ton of money. If you decide to make that upgrade and you're not into stripping and crimping your own wires, you are going to need a special wiring harness for this to fit the Arcade1up control panel, and you may also need some custom hardware to mount the joystick to the plate that is inside your joystick panel. Basically connects the joystick to the control panel. It's very easy to do, but I will give you the parts to do that below. And if you're interested in a tutorial, let me know and I can do that video for you guys. But bottom line, the controls for a $500 cabinet are not as good as you would want given the nature of Pac-Man titles. Now on the software front, this is the usual Arcade1up Wave 4 fare. It looks very nice. The menu design is slick, but this is not a Code Mystics cabinet. We have no menu for the individual games with the dip switch settings or scanline enabling. I'd have loved to have seen scanlines here. I'm maybe the rare person that's actually a fan of well done scanlines on an LCD. I'm hoping this will get updated in the future. I know that other Miss Pac-Man cabinets are getting updated, but we haven't heard anything about the cocktail cabinet. So I've reached out to Arcade1up for a comment. I haven't heard back yet. I'll let you guys know when I do, but I'm really hoping we do get that update here. Future unqualified critics here. So I reached out to Arcade1up and the response was they're looking into being able to patch the cocktail cabinet. They're telling me it's a little trickier to update than the normal cabinet, but they think they're going to be able to do it. So I would tell you, if you're really concerned about dip switch settings or scan lines, hold off on buying this cabinet since that is not confirmed, but hopefully and likely we will get that update here. Now when it comes to the games list, this is clearly the best games lineup of any of the Miss Pac-Man variants. For me to have Dig Dug, Galaga, Miss Pac-Man in one cabinet are just, you know, I'm kind of already sold there. That's good enough for me. But it's also nice to have Super Pac. It's nice to have Galaxian. You've got a couple Pac-Man variants thrown in, and then Dig Dug 2, which I'd never even played before. Can't say I enjoyed it a whole lot, but it's always cool to have the sequel arcade game in with the main game. So nice touch that they gave us that. Also nice touch that we got Galaxian alongside Galaga, because before you normally get Galaga or Galaxian on one of their cabinets. It's nice to have them both here in one cab. Pac-Land, like I said, I wasn't really a fan of. It's a really tough game to play. It's awkward to navigate with the buttons. You don't use a joystick to move left or right, you move buttons. It's kind of goofy, but it has its fans, and I don't know, there's not much else to say about it. I'm not going to fault these guys for giving us extra games. I just really wish they'd stuck to games with fewer buttons so we could get that centered joystick. Alright, my final thoughts. This cabinet I like a lot. It does have its faults that I've outlined here, but it's kind of more than the sum of its parts. Because it's a sit-down cabinet, it's relaxing to play. It's got that centerpiece appeal where it's going to look really nice in your game room, and it's got such an awesome games list. I suspect I'm going to end up playing this, maybe even more than my Golden Axe cabinet. And that's always tricky when people ask, you know, what's your favorite Arcade1up? Well, do you go with the one you play the most, or do you go with the one that's the most perfect product? Golden Axe is a much more perfect product than this is. However, there's no denying that this cabinet is a lot of fun to play and it looks awesome. And for that reason, I do recommend it. Currently it's $450 at Best Buy, but that price might go back up to $499. If you're interested in picking it up, I'll put a link below. If you buy it, that will not cost you anything extra, but it will support the channel. And so I thank you for that and appreciate it. I will also drop links for the upgrade parts I've bought myself. I added 2 sand sticks to replace the existing sticks. I might do a video on how to do that. There are a couple little details. It's not super difficult, but there are a couple little tricks. And you will need some hardware to mount a sand joystick to the existing plate that comes with this cabinet. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions about the Miss Pac-Man Arcade1up, drop them below. I'll get to them as quickly as I can, and I'll talk to you later. Hey, consider hitting that join button to support the channel, and thanks so much for watching.